The Seiko 5 collection has long been a haven for mass appealing fun with a variety that could leave you studying up for days in order to get a download on which one is right for you. As the Seiko 5 sports lineup has undergone its refresh in the last few years, one of those neglected but obvious areas and requests was for a smaller case version of their popular diving style options. And today we look at the recently unveiled SRPKs in 4 colorways with a 38mm case. Let's jump in. So if you're liking what you're seeing today with these watches after watching this video, we do have more information to the product pages on our website, teddybaldassarre.com, where you can also purchase the watches. We are an authorized dealer. Any purchase helps support the content that we're creating, but let's get into the review. In 2019, Seiko announced the release of a new lineup of Seiko 5 models known as the Seiko 5 Sports. It came with over a couple dozen new iterations on a format that was well established, falling underneath the umbrella of Seiko 5 that has decades of acclaim to back it up. For many, they were a welcome addition. However, given the recently discontinued JDM enthusiast heartthrob SKX at the time, these watches became a target for those that long for an ISO-compliant dive watch in a familiar execution. Though as time has gone on and this collection has furthered to include a variety of cases and styles, many enthusiasts have grown to appreciate what these watches have come to represent: an attainable package with everyday wear viability. Now, despite little time being wasted on expanding much of this immense collection, there was one area where patience was a tested virtue, with those longing for a smaller case variant of this popular design DNA having to wait 4 years. Just a couple of months ago, this lineup was unveiled and aimed to encapsulate the original ethos of those 2019 SRPD Seiko 5s in a smaller package. Introducing those subjects at hand, we have the SRPK 29 in a black dial, the SRPK 31 with a light beige as described by Seiko, and then the SRPK 33 in teal, and finally the SRPK 35 in orange, which I have on my wrist. For wear on wrist, we have a case diameter of 38mm, a thickness of just over 12mm, and a lug-to-lug of a compact 44.2mm. A trait of Seiko dive style watches that is quickly understood by those that collect them is that their proposed diameter never gives an accurate representation of the actual wear. For the former Seiko 5 Sports SRPDs, their 42.5mm cases were nearly 2mm smaller, with a length that was an anomaly for the diameter at around 46mm. Although the case size is aggressively scaled down in this instance, it is important to note that the lug-to-lug is only slightly abbreviated compared to their larger sibling, in turn making these watches wear only slightly smaller than their proposed case size, mirroring the case of the Dress KX models, yet the bezel does visually make the cases appear larger in comparison. Between the 20mm drilled lugs is a brushed 3-link style bracelet in the conventional Seiko 5 Sports fashion, with stamp and folded end links, pin adjusted links, and a stamped 18mm clasp that offers only 2 points of micro adjustment. While the bracelet does a job, it's far from exceptional. Case finishing is very straightforward, with brushing on all the front-facing surfaces with polished sides along the case back, and along the notched edge of that 120-click unidirectional bezel. At the 4 o'clock position is a crown in the push-pull variety, working in tandem with the screw-down case back and securing this watch's 100 meters of water resistance. The bezels seated outside the mineral crystal are of the unidirectional variety as mentioned, and have a nice audible response when rotating with slight play, being marked for every 5 minutes, and having smaller dots filling in the gaps for those final 20 minutes when timing events. On the subject of dials, Seiko is not reinventing the wheel here in regards to its established layout. Each model comes with this subdued sunray effect with a raised chapter ring housing the minute track and surrounding the corresponding raised geometric hour markers with LumiBrite within that shine impressively in combination with the standard handset at center. At 12, the raised Seiko logo and ornate printed 5 rest opposite the cursive automatic text at 6, with a day date wheel sitting in the 3 o'clock position with with a subtle facet serving as a border to the displayed information. A small point of distinction for the hands are that the orange and teal color dials come with gold tone hour and minute hands, while the black and silver dials come in, or that beige tone dial, comes with the conventional silver to match the rest of the markings. The black is very much by the books, but the rest of the dials have an element of pop, with the teal blue probably being the most unique in its tone. Turning the watches over, we have view of a in-house caliber, the 4R36. Seiko's 4R collection of calibers took off right where the older non-hacking and non-hand-winding 7S26 left off, providing a reliable workhorse caliber intended for use inside Seiko's most attainable watches, with the 4R36 being first unveiled back in 2011. While it's not a movement that is attractive to look at, the 4R36 is a basic 3-hand day-date caliber operating at 3 Hz or 21,600 vibrations per hour, and has seen active service in millions of watches, also being offered by Seiko Instruments as the NH series. While the quoted accuracy standard for the 4R36 is only -35 to +45 seconds per day, anecdotally speaking, the vast majority of Seiko models we test perform much better. In terms of general operation here, 21,600 vibrations per hour, 3 Hz, does feature hacking and hand winding, hacking stopping the second hand when you pull the crown to the farthest position, and a power reserve of approximately 41 hours. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit more, just some final thoughts here, my opinions on these models. Now I wanna speak quickly about the Seiko 5 Sports collection in general, because I think part of the pushback on these models is given the concept of the SKX and what it stood for in the past. Just because the SKX was discontinued doesn't mean that these are not solid watches and make a lot of sense for a lot of people out there. Now, do they make sense for everybody? I wouldn't say that's the case. We can talk about who I think these watches are probably better suited for than others. But the SKX, let's be clear, that was a professional diving watch. With the Seiko 5 branding, there is no intention behind the former SRPDs at 42.5 millimeters and these watches to take over for the SKX 009 and 013. That is just not something that they're looking to do. The bracelet, the Hardlex crystal probably will be the 2 major pain points for these watches, I would say, for where they sit when it comes to price. But here's the thing with these watches. They still are very viable for many people out there, and I think many will enjoy them on the wrist, as they should, because for where they represent, are they the best value watches in the world nowadays at retail pricing? I don't know, but they are still very good watches that I don't think you'll be upset with going in the direction of them. These watches are never intended to replace the SKX. I don't know how many times we have to say this, but also people saying that 100 meters of water resistance is not enough. Well, ISO compliance would like to have a word with you, and quite frankly, most of the people that are complaining are not going any deeper than the depths of their deepest portion of their pool. I definitely would swap it on the bracelet. I have it on a different strap here. I think the 4 dial colors that they went with are really nice. Even that beige color is pretty sharp to look at and was way better in person than I expected. And overall, I think they represent that versatile approach for an attainable watch that you might look for if you have a smaller wrist. If you're somebody that has many Seikos, I could see some of the reasons why you would look past this, because you've probably moved on to some of the more professional oriented dive watches, and this isn't gonna do it for you. But if you're somebody that maybe isn't deep into the weeds of Seiko or even into mechanical watches in general yet, you're looking for that first watch to potentially buy, you have a smaller wrist and have that preference, these are absolutely great watches for those type of individuals. I've just become pretty exhausted with the fact that whenever we talk about these watches, we have to mention the SKX. The SKX has been gone and it has been gone, and these are not trying to replace them. They're representing something within the Seiko 5 collection as something that's completely its own. And if you are that type of individual, that is what I just described, looking for a solid watch in this price tier and you haven't ventured into this arena of Seiko, I think you'll be very happy with this on your wrist. But all right guys, that is my take looking at these new Seiko 5 sports models. Have you had a chance to check these out yet? What are your thoughts? If you have, if you own one of these watches, I know that'll help other people out that are looking to buy these. Please leave comments down below, would really appreciate that. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon, that really does help out the channel. And also check out TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of 30 brands, including Seiko watches, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. And also how we're able to fund all of these productions is through selling watches on our site. So if you are in the market for a watch, we'd love to have your business. I know you can buy a watch essentially anywhere nowadays, but it really allows us to keep doing what we're doing, and we love what we do. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I'll see you all very soon.